responsibility to protect these students. And I want to confess to you, for those of you who may not know, I would be a hypocrite if I did not fight for those who today are facing conditions that over 40 years I faced as an undocumented migrant to this country. I want to repeat that. I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world, regardless of my position today, if today I did not fight for those who find themselves in the same predicament I faced over 40 years ago when I arrived in this country at the age of 17 as an undocumented immigrant. Education made me and saved me. I became a teacher, a principal, a superintendent leading the nation's largest districts, 4 times selected as National Superintendent of the Year. Do not underestimate the power of the immigrant child who may very well become an adult who does well and good by America. If I come across with a certain degree of contempt and anger, I am, because Monday, actions were taken in this community that have no place in our city, in our state, or across America. Monday, at 2 different elementary schools, 2 hours apart, teams of 3 to 4 individuals approached 2 elementary schools, one Lillian Elementary School on the east side and the other one Russell Elementary School on the south side. Russell Elementary was visited at around 10 o'clock in the morning this past Monday by 4 individuals who, after being introduced to the principal, identified themselves not as ICE, but as Homeland Security agents, asking specific questions about 4 students. These students range in grades from 1st to 6th grade. My very first question starts there. What interest should a Homeland Security agent have in a 1st grader, or a 2nd grader, a 3rd grader, or a 4th grader for that matter? 2 hours later, the same type of event took place at the 2nd elementary school, at Lillian Elementary School. At Lillian Elementary School, 3 individuals who also identified themselves after the principal asked for badges as Homeland Security, wanting to clarify that they were not ICE, asking questions about one student in that school, this time a 6th grader. I am proud of these principals. I am proud of our workforce. I am proud of the clerical staff in the front office, for they did exactly what we trained them to do. You see, in advance of the November election, in advance of the executive orders that have been published and announced, we declared back in August and September and October that at Los Angeles Unified we had protocols in place and training in place to prepare our workforce in a preparation for and protection of our students. And these principals and their staffs followed the protocol. They asked for identification, which at least in one of the cases, officials initially were reluctant to show their IDs. Once IDs were presented, principals attempted to take information down. At that point, the agents pocketed their IDs, refusing to allow the writing down of their names and badge numbers. They declared to the principals in both instances that the caretakers of these students had authorized them to go to the school. We have confirmed that that is a falsehood. We've spoken with the caretakers of these children, in some cases parents, and they deny any interaction with these entities and certainly deny providing authorization for these individuals to have any contact with these children at the school. In one of the cases, the principal did say that these individuals were professional but stern, and they attempted to contradict the position of the principal, saying they had every authority to be in the school and have access to these children. That is incorrect. The principals did the right thing. They denied access. They asked for proof of agency. They immediately contacted our regional operations office and our legal department, for we have individuals who have been specifically trained to deal with these types of situations. From a legal perspective, our school board police was deployed to the school to provide assistance. Our legal department was notified to take any and all appropriate action, and operations staff were deployed to the school to assist. In light of this response, at both schools, the officers retreated, got in their dark vehicles, and left without any further action being taken. I'm still mystified as to how a first, second, third, fourth, or sixth grader would pose any type of risk to the national security of our nation that would require Homeland Security to deploy its agents to 2 elementary schools. I will put my job on the line easily, as I have done on the East Coast, in protection of our students. No federal agency has the authority, short of a judicial warrant, that means the equivalent of a criminal subpoena, to enter our schools. We will protect our kids, we will educate our kids, we will inspire our kids, we will not allow abuse, intimidation of our children or our workforce. Schools are places for learning. Schools are places for understanding. Schools are places for instruction. Schools are not places of fear. I spoke with both principals, and their words resonate powerfully in my mind. They both described feeling fear, and they both described their faculties as feeling fear, but they also demonstrated incredible courage and determination. I asked them, are the kids okay? And she said the kids are okay, both principals. The children are okay, but the communities are feeling fear, and that is a shame. Este lunes pasado enfrentamos una condición que sinceramente no tiene ningún lugar en nuestro país, en nuestra comunidad, aquí en nuestra ciudad. Como superintendente de escuelas, yo quiero declarar y afirmar una vez más, para que las personas que no lo sepan entiendan que yo soy un inmigrante. Yo llegué a este país con 17 años de edad, indocumentado. Entonces tengo un deber profesional y moral de proteger a nuestros niños y proteger a nuestra comunidad y representar a nuestros niños inmigrantes. Este lunes pasado, hablando específicamente de 2 escuelas primarias, entidades federales identificadas como agentes del Departamento de Seguridad Nacional, intentaron obtener información y tener contacto con estudiantes primarios de nuestro sistema escolar. Estudiantes bien jóvenes, entre los grados de primer grado hasta el 6º grado. Nuestros directores de escuela, bien entrenados, porque empezamos un proceso de entrenamiento el año pasado, anticipando resultados electorales que posiblemente cambiarían la política nacional, respondieran de una forma excelente. Negaran acceso a los estudiantes o a los agentes federales. Preguntaron las preguntas esenciales, demandaron identificación, y después de un proceso interactivo entre los directores y los agentes federales, ellos se fueron sin obtener contacto y acceso a nuestros estudiantes. Mi pregunta en este momento es, ¿cuál es la razón por la cual agentes federales intentarían tener acceso a nuestros estudiantes, agentes federales representando el Departamento de defensa nacional. Niños de primer grado, de segundo grado, de tercer grado. Imagínense, si fueran sus hijos. Tenemos un deber profesional y moral y legal de proteger a nuestros niños. Nuestros planteles escolares son lugares seguros, son lugares para instrucción, protección, no para abuso o instalar una atmósfera de miedo aquí en nuestra comunidad. Your questions.
What did the agents say they wanted from these students?
So the agents represented in both instances to the principals that they wanted access to the students to determine their well-being, based on, according to the agents, the fact that when they entered this country, they entered as unaccompanied minors. It is well known that these students are under the care of relatives. They also volunteered up front, I believe, in an attempt to disarm the principals, that they were not representing ICE. However, it is disturbing that during that conversation, they conveyed to both principals that the parents or the legal guardians in charge of these children had provided them authorization for access to these kids in school. That is absolutely, blatantly untrue.
Were they wearing anything other than the IDs that they had that
So,
identified them?
so the principals actually remarked about that. Both principals conveyed to me that these individuals showed up at school not wearing uniform, actually dressed rather casually, only produced identification when asked, and again, when the principals attempted to write down details about their IDs, they quickly hid their IDs, and they conveyed to the principals that that was not allowed. You and I know that if LAPD stops you and you want the name of the officer and the badge number, they're compelled to provide it to you. So we find this experience distasteful, bothersome, and totally unacceptable.
Superintendente, basado en lo que acaba de decir en inglés, que los agentes o supuestos agentes escondieron sus identificaciones y dejando claro que las autoridades como la Policía de Los Ángeles, cuando uno les pide una identificación la tienen que mostrar, podría caber la posibilidad de que estos son agentes impostores, y la pregunta se la hago porque ya traté de hablar con el Departamento de Homeland Security para que me confirme que en verdad mandaron los agentes y no me han dicho nada. Have you contacted Homeland Security? En español.
Lo estamos intentando hacerlo. Estamos trabajando con nuestro departamento legal para obtener más información, pero los directores de escuela, después de la conversación que yo he tenido con ellos, hablando conmigo de una forma muy honesta, ellos piensan que esas personas eran de verdad agentes federales, que las tarjetas de identificación parecían reales. Pero vamos a averiguarlo, vamos a investigarlo.
¿Alguna idea por qué estaban buscando a esos estudiantes, específicamente esos tres hombres?
Basado en la conversación que estas personas han tenido con los directores de escuela, yo pienso que es basado en el estatus de migración de los niños, que quizás llegaran a este país indocumentados y solos. Pero esa información que los agentes federales han declarado a los directores de escuela. Nosotros operamos de una forma confidencial. Parte de la respuesta de los directores de escuela a los agentes es que nosotros seguimos una ley federal, una ley de protección, de confidencialidad de nuestros niños. Entonces no podemos confirmar o negar o entregar cualquier información específica sobre cualquier estudiante. La información es privada, es confidencial.
Qué difícil es eso, que los estudiantes y los padres vean que hubo este intento de ICE de entrar a la escuela en un momento donde muchos ya tienen miedo de mandar a sus estudiantes.
Yo pienso que, antes de todo, crea una condición de temor, de miedo. Y yo pienso sinceramente que quizás esa es la intención, es de crear una condición, una atmósfera, un ambiente de miedo para asustar a los padres de familia, para que ellos tomen decisiones propias. Y yo no puedo aceptar eso. Instigar, crear miedo en nuestra juventud no es aceptable para mí. Let's go over here and then I'll come back.
To clarify, they said they were not ICE agents. How confident are you that they were there for immigration enforcement?
I think it is peculiar and intriguing that they would identify themselves as agents of Homeland Security, quickly declare they do not represent ICE. I think that is a disarming technique. Provide identification only when asked, but then hiding the identification very quickly when our principals attempted to write down information. So I cannot confirm or deny that they were or were not ICE agents or Homeland Security agents. Quite frankly, it matters not to me, because we know that across the country, different agencies have been deputized and deployed to collaborate with ICE. So if a federal agent presents themselves to our schools, regardless of agency, asking for direct access to our students, that is suspect behavior that we're not going to tolerate in this district.
At this point, is this the first time there have been federal agents that have arrived in LAUSD school?
It is the first time that we can confirm that this type of action took place. There have been immigration enforcement actions close to schools that have impacted parents' access to school. Those have been well documented through local media. But this is the very first time that federal agents attempted to have access to our schools, actually went into the school and asked for access and information. Esta fue la primera vez que agentes federales han intentado tomar acciones de migración en nuestros planteles escolares. Nosotros tenemos información e evidencia de otros incidentes cerca de nuestros planteles escolares, pero la primera vez que agentes federales entraran en nuestras escuelas intentando tomar acciones que nosotros entendemos como acciones federales con nuestros niños.
Superintendent, you mentioned that. Go ahead.
Did you say that the students that the agent asked about were known to be unconfirmed?
I'm not confirming that. That was what the agents conveyed to the principals.
And how long were these interactions with those agents for?
So they lasted about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. Our protocol is very, very clear, and I'll speak about the protocols up until a certain point. Then, in an effort to protect our workforce and the procedures we have in place, I'll stop there. Our staffs are trained if anyone enters the school, goes to the office, and asks for information about our students. Number one, provide me your credentials. Tell me who you are, what agency do you represent. Secondly, produce a subpoena, produce a judicial warrant. That means, is there evidence that you are pursuing an individual on the basis of a signed court order by a judge based on a criminal accusation? Immigration actions are usual civil in nature. If that document is not provided, the conversation is over. They're asked to politely leave. At the same time, calls are made to our operations department and our legal department and our school board police department so that the principal and the school community are provided law enforcement support, so that law enforcement speaks with law enforcement, they're provided legal support, and they're provided also with operational support to the principal. What? Lo mismo. Tenemos una serie de protocolos que hemos usado y entrenado nuestro equipo de trabajo en todos nuestros planteles escolares que requieren que cualquier persona que se presente en nuestros planteles escolares tiene que identificarse, declarar su nombre y la agencia que representan. Inmediatamente, los directores de escuela llaman al departamento de operaciones, al departamento legal de nuestro sistema escolar y a nuestro departamento de policía para recibir el apoyo a nivel escolar.
And in a previous question, you really mentioned how this creates an atmosphere of fear. Has this impacted attendance at all at any of the schools, the fear?
We have detected attendance impact specific to schools where in the surrounding neighborhood there have been immigration actions. We detected, based on conversations with the principals, some degree of impact at the two schools, obviously as a result of the fear that this incident created in that community. District-wide, we have not observed a significant fluctuation of attendance, I think in large part because of the protective demeanor that we have demonstrated.
Can you talk about some
En ese
percentages?
sentido, ¿cuál es el impacto? Esto fue el lunes, hoy jueves, ¿qué reportes tienen? ¿Hay ausencias de alumnos? Esas dos escuelas primarias, elementary, ¿son de hispanos principalmente? ¿Qué reporte tiene usted hasta hoy?
Ambas escuelas tienen una gran representación de niños latinos, muchos de ellos aprendices de inglés. Lo que hemos observado es un aumento a nivel de miedo comunitario, pero el porcentaje de asistencia diaria no ha cambiado mucho. Principalmente los niños directamente impactados por este tipo de acción, hemos tenido conversaciones con sus familias para asegurarlos que tienen una protección legal en nuestros planteles escolares. Yo pienso que el mensaje que estamos comunicando a nuestra comunidad está acalmando a los padres de familia.
Is
you
there
give
surveillance
percentages?
video at this point?
I have to get back to you on that. We usually don't have cameras in the main office, and this interaction took place in the main office.
Can you give us percentages if there has been less students in any given school? Is there a percentage, a number?
Now, I think we continue to look at the average daily attendance, and I can tell you that district-wide, we're actually in a fairly good place. Our attendance is back up to pre-pandemic levels. What we have seen is in areas really close to previous actions, we did see a decline in average daily attendance, but after immediate conversations with the community, by the way, we have processes where all the parents in that school community are automatically called when something like this is happening or is about to happen in the community. We have a responsibility to inform the community and to provide some degree of support and calm and comfort to the community. So we've seen some degree of impact on attendance specific to that school, but not district-wide.
¿Puede ser esa respuesta en español?
Many parents received a message on Monday about immigration enforcement in the community. Was that related to this incident?
So these actions took place Monday, and yes, as I just mentioned, we call members of the community for whom we have contact information when we suspect or have evidence of immigration actions at the school or in the surrounding neighborhood.
Why has it taken until now to get more details about the incident?
I'm sorry.
The 3 days in between it happening Monday and now.
So we took, we're not in the business of actually heightening the level of concern for the community. We speak directly to the community parents. We speak directly to the individuals. I think, and I'm going to say this to you out of incredible respect for what you do. And I think he asked me, are these schools disproportionately Latino schools? I think it does not serve the community well after an incident like this for the cameras to show up at the school where we know these students are. Talk about waving a flag. We're here, come and get us. So I understand you need to do what you want to do and what you need to do professionally, but we have a professional responsibility of protection. And advertising, where there might be a cluster of students who could become victims of these processes, does not serve the public interest. I remember when I was in those shoes, I certainly did not want a camera anywhere near me.
Superintendent, you have mentioned that you are willing to put your job on the line to defend the kids, and the question is, how much are you willing to protect both los directores de la escuela, the principals?
The same. I'm willing to.
And if they are in any danger.
You know, I remember a number of years back when I was superintendent of the third largest district in the country, taking similar actions, actually leading a student walkout in protection of an undocumented student who had been served with a deportation order. Remarkably bright students. This was the valedictorian of the school, accepted to 8 or 9 Ivy League schools. And I declared to the federal government at that point that if this student was deported, I would resign my position as superintendent. I would dedicate full-time my efforts towards the protection of immigrant children and their families. I'm willing to do the same thing at this point. And again, this is not, it has more to do with my own life experience and lived experience as a former undocumented teenager in this country. I cannot renounce, I cannot take off that skin, I cannot shed my experience. And if I am to represent who I am and what I became in this country, I have to do it in a way that honors the humanity and dignity of those who are currently in the same exact condition decades after I was in that predicament. So I would put my job on the line in the protection of our students and our workforce. And by the way, we are following the law, folks. I want to be very clear about this. We are following federal law. Federal law, actually a number of federal laws. Let's begin with the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of our nation declares under its equal protection clause that all students, regardless of immigration status, have a right to a free public education. We are guaranteeing that. Secondly, under FERPA, and FERPA is a powerful student and parent privacy right law, entitles the students and the caretakers, that means myself, the principals, and the teachers, to ensure that no information is provided to any entity regarding their status, regarding their income, their address, anything like that. So we are following the law. We're not doing anything outside of the law. And we will fight those who abuse that same law by exercising all protective measures for our kids and their families.
Can you say that in
In
Spanish?
terms of the number of students,
Antes de todo, estamos siguiendo la ley. Estamos protegiendo a nuestros niños basado en las leyes nacionales que garantizan la privacidad de información para nuestros estudiantes, para sus padres de familia. Estamos siguiendo la ley. Y es por eso que muy fácilmente yo puedo declarar que yo puedo arriesgar a perder mi posición en la lucha por nuestros niños, por sus derechos, sus familias y por nuestra fuerza laboral. Y eso es debido a mi historia personal como inmigrante en este país.
can you confirm the number of students once again? Two schools?
Altogether, between both schools, there were 5 students who were targeted.
Can you repeat the
And, and by the way, I am not confirming. There were 5, presumably, 5 individuals who, according to the agents, are students in our district. Using the words of our principals, they did not confirm or deny that they were students, because there would be an abuse of the law, FERPA. But I can tell you that 4 names were declared at one school. 1 name was declared at the other school. At Lillian Elementary, they mentioned a 6th grade student. At the other school, at Russell Elementary, they mentioned 4 individuals ranging in grades between 1st and 4th grade.
¿Pudo hablar usted con los estudiantes y si sí están asustados o cómo se sienten en este momento?
Bueno, yo pienso que los niños no tenían ninguna idea de lo que estaba pasando porque no tienen el entendimiento todavía. Pero hablando con los padres de familia involucrados, claro, sienten un cierto nivel de temor, de miedo, confusión. Y es debido a eso que nosotros proporcionamos apoyo psicológico apoyo socioemocional, tenemos consejeros especialmente entrenados para apoyar a los padres de familia.
Superintendente, basado en lo que dice usted, es la primera y la última línea de defensa de los estudiantes, basándonos en la ley. ¿Cuál sería el mensaje para los padres de familia que hoy viven bajo temor, bajo miedo, bajo terror de llevar a sus niños a la escuela o que incluso los niños vayan solos a la escuela?
Confía en nosotros, tenemos procesos de protección, tenemos personal de apoyo entrenado para protegerlos. Es importante que los niños continúen a asistir a nuestros programas de estudio. No se puede capitular, no podemos declarar a entidades federales, estatales, de una forma que suspenden los derechos personales y civiles de nuestros estudiantes o sus padres de familia.
¿El mensaje para la administración responsable de esto?
Yo hablé con el director, la administración.
La administración responsable de esto.
Como inmigrante orgulloso, quiero declarar que vamos a tomar todas las medidas necesarias para proteger a nuestros niños. Es un insulto a la humanidad de nuestros niños. Mandar agentes federales para tomar cualquier tipo de acción contra niños de primer grado. Esa es una acción que no se puede explicar de cualquier forma.
Following these, I know you mentioned this is the first reported incident.
I'm sorry.
You mentioned that this is the first reported incident of federal agents now. Do you know if this ever happened in LA Unified during the first time?
Good question. So I've asked that question, and we were told that during the first administration, there was an attempt at an action at an independent charter school, which falls outside of the jurisdiction of Los Angeles Unified. Other than that, I can tell you that over the past 9 years or so, that this is the very first time that any action of this type has taken place in Los Angeles.
Okay, we have time for one last question.
What resources are available to these communities impacted by
So the question is, what resources are available? So we have psychiatric social workers, we have counselors especially trained in dealing with immigrant populations, we have counselors deployed to support international new arrivals. These are students who recently arrived in the country. Through the Parent Academy and community engagement, we have individuals who provide support to the families. We have a legal team within our legal department that specializes in direct support to the community. We have partnerships with not-for-profit third-party organizations that provide immigration support to the families, legal support to the families, and that's coordinated through our General Counsel's Office.
Si puede decir eso en español, yo sé que se tiene que ir, pero nada más eso y ya.
Tenemos varios recursos disponibles para apoyar a nuestros niños y principalmente a los padres de familia. Tenemos consejeros especialmente entrenados para apoyar a los niños inmigrantes y a sus familias. Tenemos psicólogos, tenemos trabajadores sociales entrenados en este tipo de trabajo, pero también tenemos enlaces especiales con entidades legales aquí a nivel local para, claro, apoyar de una forma legal a las familias que están enfrentando este tipo de acción. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Look, I'm an educator, so before you leave, a lot of fear, a lot of concern. State assessment is about to start in just a few weeks. So just think about this. The same kids who are fearing, literally, for their permanency in this country, they're listening at the dinner table, at the lunch table, their parents speaking about the fear they feel, whether they stay or leave, whether one parent leaves and the other parent stays, because in many instances, one parent has a legal status, the separation of families. And these same kids are going to have to sit for a state exam and demonstrate proficiency in reading and math with no consideration. So I want to take advantage of this stage to let state entities know that we cannot be insensitive to the state of mind of kids as they now have to sit for an exam that will test their knowledge in reading, mathematics, and other topics. This is an unthinkable set of conditions. And of course, this comes just weeks after reductions were made to food programs that now remove, farm to school fresh fruits, vegetables grown by local farmers. Eliminated. So we're taking food from kids. We're showing up at schools, intimidating first graders. What's next? What's next? I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for the mic stands. I don't know who's inside, but.